Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about anthropomorphizing reptiles and why it's dangerous. So what does it mean to anthropomorphize something? It means to impart human characteristics on them. Now with reptiles, this is particularly dangerous because, well, one, they're not humans, but two, they're also not mammals. So sometimes people, and I see this especially with like new keepers or younger people, younger children especially, this might be an issue. A bearded dragon cannot be treated like a cat or a dog. Not only because it's not a cat or a dog, but because it's not a mammal, and as such has to be given strict husbandry requirements in order to have it thrive. With a dog or a cat, they can sleep beside you. A bearded dragon can't. With a dog or a cat, you can take them on a walk on a cold day. With a bearded dragon, you can't. And so, like, at the forefront of keeping reptiles, we have to remember that they are reptiles and their needs are drastically different than a lot of the pet mammals we keep in captivity. So I want to talk about some of the ways that people might anthropomorphize their reptiles without even realizing they're doing it. One way people might anthropomorphize their bearded dragon or any other reptile is that they will keep them in an enclosure that is mostly cloth. Like, they'll have a cloth floor, like a towel or a blanket. They'll have a bed that's made out of cloth and has pillows. There will be a general lack of the decor that a bearded dragon would experience in nature, like wood, rock, substrate, that sort of stuff. I don't want to say it's like as bad as someone like not having UVB, for example. So while it's not completely harmful, it does tend to cause the problem where enrichment is concerned of, like, you know, a bearded dragon is not a dog or a cat that could be comfortable sleeping in a pillow bed. You know, it's a reptile that needs what is in its natural environment, which would be wood, cork, rock, those type of materials. By having cloth beds, we are imparting human characteristics onto them because humans like to sleep in cloth beds and we like that aesthetic because that's comfortable to us. But for a bearded dragon, it's not going to be the same because they're a bearded dragon and we are humans. Something similar would be keeping clothing on a reptile. Now, if you're just doing a photo shoot or something cute, you know, just like have for a few minutes, it's not a problem. But someone who keeps clothing on their bearded dragon all the time, for example, the bearded dragon is going to have issues with shedding. It's going to have issues with like the little fibers getting stuck to their scales. But most importantly, they're going to have an issue absorbing UVB because they use their body to do that. And if their body is covered in clothing, they're not going to be able to absorb that UVB. Another one that I see happen with reptiles often is people will feed them human food. So it's become like commonplace for people to feed table food to their dogs or their cats or like other mammals. And the issue is with reptiles, they have a very specific diet and you can't feed bread or kale. Yes, those are two foods that someone DM'd me they were feeding their leopard gecko. Bread and kale. You cannot feed bread or kale to an insectivore. Like, leopard geckos are strictly insectivores. They will not be eating bread and kale. It's not going to do them any good to eat bread and kale. So please don't feed your reptiles human food just because you enjoy human food. Again, please remember that they are reptiles. Another one would be, and I've seen this, so that's actually why it's on this list, but another one would be taking your reptile to school or to like the park with you or to anywhere where you'd feel comfortable like taking a mammal. So like, of course, dogs aren't usually welcome at schools, but there are service dogs and ESA dogs and things like that, where the dogs can be brought out in public, and also some stores allow dogs. But people will want their bearded dragon, and even in some cases I've seen people call their bearded dragon their emotional support dragon. They'll want to take their bearded dragon with them everywhere, and the problem with that is like the bearded dragon needs to stay in its enclosure so it can have heat and UVB throughout the day, so it can thermoregulate. If you are just taking the bearded dragon out of its environment for the whole day, unless you're living somewhere where they naturally thrive and you can take them outside in the sunlight and enjoy time with them there, but like they can't go to school with you. Alternatively, they can't sleep with you. There's some cases online I've seen of people wanting to sleep in the same bed as their reptiles, and this is a problem because you could roll over and crush your reptile, but also because like reptiles aren't mammals. So again, they don't like sleep in a cloth bed. They have to be treated as reptiles. And also because if your reptile requires any sort of heating at night, the element of it in its enclosure, it's not going to be able to get in your bed. Also, that allows them to escape and run your house rampant. Also, that allows them to spread their germs into your bed or your germs onto them. It's just, I don't advise taking your reptile out of its enclosure to sleep with it at night. Another one I see is when people say, oh, my leopard gecko is lonely, I want to get it a friend. Please do not think that reptiles experience loneliness the way that humans do. Sure, there are some reptiles that do thrive from cohabbing, and I'm not denying that, but don't think that your reptile experiences loneliness the same way that you or other mammals would. There's a lot of species that do worse when kept cohabbed, and leopard geckos are one of them. So is my recommendation that you do not cohab your reptile unless you know it's a species that thrives when cohabbed. Another one would be taking your reptile outside in inappropriate weather. So like some people will let their reptiles play in snow or eat snow or just put them outside when it's cold. We have warm blood, so we're able to be outside in cold temperatures. Cold temperatures are very dangerous for reptiles who are not able to produce their own warmth and need it from, in your case, it would be like an enclosure where they have heat. In nature, it'd be the sun. So that's why, for example, I live in Indiana. We don't have bearded dragons running around here. Do you know why? It's too cold for a bearded dragon. So know your reptile's temperature requirements, know your reptile's husbandry to a T, and don't put them in situations where they're going to be cold and can't have the ability to warm up. If it's summer outside and it's warm, your reptile is probably fine to come outside with you, but just keep in mind when you bring a reptile outside that they can get away from you, or a bird of prey can get them, or they might become defensive and skittish, and a lot of their natural behaviors might come out because they're outside. So it's just something to keep in mind. You might encounter different behavior on their part, or you might encounter a dangerous situation in which they run away or a bird comes and swoops them away. Another one I want to talk about is having a free roaming reptile or a reptile that has no cage. I don't see this too commonly anymore, but a few years ago, I don't know if it was because one person did it and then everyone else did, but they would have their reptiles living in their house and would only have one source of heat in the whole house for them. Now, if you live in a place where that species of reptile naturally occurs and your temperatures are going to mirror what their temperatures look like in nature, then it's not so much of an issue. But when I see someone who lets their iguana or their tegu or their bearded dragon live wild in their home, it's there are so many things that reptile can get into that's unsafe. How do they properly thermoregulate when your house has AC in the summer? How do they have one basking bulb in one room of the house that they have to go seek out? It's just not appropriate. The reptile should have an enclosure to keep it safe and to keep it healthy. Now, like I said, there's probably going to be some situations where it works, but I'm going to say for most people, it's not going to be something you're going to want to try. The last thing I have is kissing and snuggling reptiles. There's going to be some clips that you see, especially on TikTok, because TikTok is the center for misinformation when it comes to reptiles. But on TikTok or other places, you might see someone having a snuggle with their reptile or giving them loving smooches and stuff. And I'm here to say that is not good. Okay? You don't want to be kissing your reptile because that is unhygienic. You can pretend to kiss them, not making contact. I don't want to make them sound like dirty creatures or anything like that, but some reptiles do carry salmonella. It's something to be careful about. Also, they have bacteria in their mouths to break down food. They also poop in their enclosures. And for bearded dragons or other large reptiles, sometimes they trail through their poop. And so you are just hanging out with the poopy reptile. Now, if you've just given it a bath, of course, it's going to be cleaner, but there's still always that chance of some sort of germ or illness spreading between, and it's just not worth the risk, especially when if you do that on social media, other people are going to see that and replicate it because they think it's okay. Now, when it comes to cuddling, a lot of people will be in the defense of oh my god, no, reptiles love to cuddle. No, reptiles love your body warmth. Our skin puts off heat that they can feel. In fact, when I had a power outage back in December and I was waiting for the generator to kick up, I had my bearded dragons out laying on my chest so they could absorb some of my warmth because I had to wait for the generator to kick on. But once it did, they were back in their enclosures because it is a good idea to have a generator, okay? I'll just have one. People will often be oh my god, no, you're so wrong. Look, he's snuggling up to that person. He loves cuddles. No, he likes body warmth. Again, that's us putting human characteristics on reptiles. Now, I'm sure there's a lot about reptiles that we don't understand in terms of like their emotional capacity, but they're not going to appreciate snuggles the same way that like a dog is going to appreciate snuggles. And that's okay. Reptiles are reptiles, and we have to appreciate them for what they are. So I hope that this video didn't ruffle any tail feathers or upset anybody, but it is something that I think needs to be talked about from time to time, because as so many new people come into the hobby, especially young people, which again I find great, I just don't want anyone to be under the impression that reptiles are like mammals and can be treated similarly. You have to treat your reptile like a reptile and follow your species husbandry in order to make sure that they have a enriching, fulfilling, healthy life. So that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by leaving a like below. Also, please comment. Also, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the good stuff. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!